Support for WCBU's On Deck comes from Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road, offering personalized service to customers from their first visit to the store to when they drive their new Land Rover home. More at jaguarlandroverpeoria.com.
Peoria School's social workers are in high demand. That's just one of the things you'll want to hear about to start your day for Thursday, August 1st. I'm Colin Chope, and this is WCBU's On Deck. First on deck today, Peoria's next mayoral race is starting to take shape, with two known challengers to Mayor Rita Ali's re-election bid so far. Ali says Peoria has made progress during her first term, and she doesn't want to see that progress interrupted. WCBU's Joe Deacon reports.
Mayor Rita Ali acknowledges that violent crime remains a major issue for Peoria, but she says anti-violence partnerships between the police and the community are making a difference. Ali points to year-to-date crime statistics showing a 36% decline in homicides and a 27% drop in shooting incidents compared to 2023.
So again, we're making some improvements. It may not seem like it perception-wise, but let's follow the data and see what it says.
Ali says since she's been in office, Peoria has made strides in several areas, such as economic development and more affordable housing. She says with the city implementing a new 5-year strategic plan, her work is not yet finished, and she's committed to the task.
I'm much stronger than when I started this job. I know the job now. I've learned the job. I've helped to build new collaborations.
Ali says she's intent on addressing poverty and embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion as a step toward closing the gaps identified by the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity.
If we ignore the facts, then we're not making improvement. We're making improvement incrementally through collaboration, through committed service.
A primary election will be scheduled for February 25th, with the general election on April 1st. For WCBU's On Deck, I'm Joe Deacon.
Here are some other stories we're following in the WCBU newsroom. Civil rights leaders say the killing of Sonia Massey should prompt sweeping national police reform. And utility companies in Illinois can't disconnect service when temperatures are 90 degrees or above. Plus, the Biden administration is proposing a new rule to protect workers from extreme heat. You can find more of these stories and all the details at WCBU.org. It's August and a new school year is here. As parents visited stores to pick out the right backpacks and pencils, you might have found Peoria High social worker Anthony Jones in his office, reviewing a poster of reasons to be a social worker. Often it means working with kids at some of the most delicate moments of their development.
You want them to have the same opportunities that you have. That may not happen ever in their lifetime, and that's okay, but you want to give them and make sure that they have that opportunity to become a better person, a good member of society.
Jones has been at his post at Peoria High for 13 years. He's one of about 20 social workers employed by District 150. While Jones is stationary at the high school, other social workers will rotate between as many as 3 buildings. This extra help is necessary because of the consistently high demand. For example, here's what a busy day is like for Jones.
I come in at 7:15 in the morning, and we've already got a line out the door at 7 o'clock. Sure. And that rolls until about 2:30.
The range of student needs can vary drastically by type, seriousness, and the time required to address them. It's important here to take a second to distinguish between a school counselor and a social worker. As Jones explains it, counselors usually have an academic as well as the personal component. There are clear lines where an issue becomes a social worker's job.
We have some heavy hitters. There's a lot of trauma involved, and that's what we're truly trained in, the aspects of trauma. We are very fortunate at Peoria High that our counselors know their limitations, as well as I think all of our teachers and everybody, as an entire staff, we know our limitations, and that's the biggest thing.
When interactions with other staff members brush up against the raw edges of trauma, a student can be referred to a social worker. That can include abuse and gun violence, the loss of a friend or family member, suicide, and food insecurity. To deal with all these topics, Jones says training is a career-long endeavor. For example, when Jones started 13 years ago, the now foundational concept of trauma was barely mentioned in his schooling.
We're taking another look at it. We're looking deeper into it and the effects of it developmentally when it occurs and what can happen, down the road.
Social workers also work closely with special education students in ways that counselors and therapists don't. They're the office that helps evaluate whether a student needs special education programs and coordinates with the family on creating plans.
We may have to modify a curriculum. That's where we step in and we do social histories, we do our testing. School psychologists are also involved in that process, and then once we go through that process, it's yay or nay, they meet the criteria or they don't meet the criteria for special education.
There's a lot of different responsibilities on the plate of a District 150 social worker. One way they get some assistance and relief is internships. Earlier this year, the board approved a new wave of interns for the 2025-26 school year, with one each coming from Aurora University and Illinois State University. Ann Bond is the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services for Peoria Public Schools. She says the interns will do anything and everything a full-time social worker would do. Supervised, of course.
When our social workers come to us and they do their internship here, they really seem to fall in love, quite honestly, with our teams, with our kids and our families. And so many of our social workers on our team really have sort of grown up within the walls of Peoria Public Schools.
Bond says the District 150 internship has something unique to offer, with the variety of facilities the interns can cycle between during their year.
We really pride ourselves on being able to provide sometimes several months, for example, at a high school, several months at a primary building, because it's very different, really, what they experience at a primary level versus high school.
Bond says the interns started this week, along with other staff returning for Institute Day. For Jones, it's the 14th year of dealing with some of Peoria students' most difficult, sensitive, and, he says, ultimately rewarding issues. Now, before we let you go, East Peoria's Music in the Park series continues tonight at Levy Park with acoustic folk artist John Wall from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And that's all for today. You can subscribe to WCBU's On Deck podcast on the NPR app, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube Music.